The 6 Marines aboard the Huey were from Light Attack Helicopter Squadron 469 based at Camp Pendleton. Military officials say helicopter wreckage was found near a small village in a dense forest of a rugged Nepal mountain region near China's border.
Craft was positively identified at approximately 1:50 p.m. today, 8 miles north of Sherikot in the Dolika region. The wreckage was found at approximately 11,000 feet in extremely dense forest and exceptionally rugged terrain.
Joining me with an update is San Diego Bureau Chief of the LA Times, Tony Perry. And Tony, the Marine Squadron and 2 Nepalese soldiers on the helicopter were part of a relief effort in Nepal. What can you tell us about that?
Well, of course, after the first earthquake, and of course there have been 2 earthquakes, the U.S. mounted with the Nepalese and with the Indians too, a effort to get food and shelter and medicine and water to some of these stranded villages that were hit very, very hard, and also to get some of the casualties who needed better help than they could give them on the site to get them out. That's what this squadron was doing. They were in the Philippines on a multinational training mission. Several Huey helicopters from that squadron from Camp Pendleton were there. When the earthquake occurred and when the U.S. Started to mount a relief effort, they were tasked to get to Nepal and to be part of it. And they had been running this mission for several days when last Tuesday they went missing. There was one last transmission that would seem to indicate a fuel problem, but no mayday and nothing after that. And so for 3 days there was an intensive search, U.S., Indian, Nepalese aircraft, and also the Nepalese Special Forces and a battalion-sized group of soldiers on the ground. They apparently were the ones who found the wreckage, twisted, burned up the side of a mountain a long way from any large city. So they knew they had something. The U.S. knew. They sent in what they called pararescue specialists from the U.S. Air Force and an officer. And they confirmed that indeed it was the helicopter from Squadron 469. Now, identifying the bodies will take time.
Sure.
And the general's being real careful. He is saying it is unlikely that anyone survived.
And what is the protocol when it comes to when there is a death in a mission of Marines? What happens and how long does that take to get that information out?
Can take a while, and each of the families, and they can be multiple families, by the way, mom and dad and a wife with kids. It can be multiple families. They will have Marines with them and at their beck and call immediately with the notification and in the traumatic days that will follow. Now, in terms of getting it out to the media, they will not release the names for at least 24 hours until everybody is notified. So sometimes it takes more than 24, 48, even 72 hours. It can take a while.
Well, we know about the pilot only because the family, his father came forward, correct?
Indeed, and what has occurred, and don't forget, we've had 10 years of this in Iraq and Afghanistan. Many families, and they're free to do this, will go to their local media, answer some questions, and that occurred with the pilot, Captain Chris Norgren from Wichita, Kansas. His father talked briefly to a reporter from a television station there, and his football coach also spoke to the television station, said he was a wonderful young man, had played football, was passionate about the Marines, about spirituality, very intelligent. His family said that he had degrees aerospace engineering and mathematics. He was quite a young man, and now we'll learn in the coming days, we will learn about these other young men as well.
And let's talk about this Huey. You talked about it was actually moved to the area. It wasn't flown, and it was actually transported to the area. What can you tell us about these Hueys? Are they designed for this type of flying?
They're maneuverable. They're small. They're not as big as some of the others. They don't transport 30 troops or large armaments or anything like that, but they're small and they're maneuverable and they can get in and out. And they're good, and they've served for a long time. They're maintained very, very carefully, but things do happen. We don't know. Weather, did that play a role? Did fog? Did icy winds? Was there a problem in the fuel tank? Was there, to be candid about it, was there an error by the pilot? That can happen too. Lots of reasons. There's going to be an extensive examination, and it will probably be weeks, if not months, before we get a definitive, and we may never get a definitive answer. New York Times did a story the other day about Navy pilots and said that sometimes even when you look and investigate, you don't really know why they crashed.
Well, we will continue to follow this story. LA Times San Diego Bureau Chief Tony Perry, thank you so much.